was beyond date. Undisclosed location 2003 to 2005.
I'll be staying here with my parents for a week or two. I can't remember if I was excited to visit my uncle's beach house or not. I was so young I probably had no idea what was going on. It was nice though. I liked their hammock. I liked the beach, the tiny island in the horizon, and the distant sound of waves rolling at night. It was a vacation to a very pleasant alien planet, hosted by people far more sane and functional than I was used to. People who had standards and rules and could manage things like cars and bank accounts and passports. Obviously I didn't belong here, but I couldn't tell why yet. I just had this nagging feeling that I was somehow incompatible with this kind of life, and could only be shown glimpses of it by well-meaning outsiders. Though for now I was mercifully unaware of all this. This totally unremarkable family outing that most people would take for granted was one of the precious few times in my life where I approached the other side, so to speak. Like finally coming up for air, and then realizing you still can't breathe. I have many peculiar memories of the beach house, almost all of them positive despite my obligatory adult grumbling. It is, after all, the site of my Gamernarche.
Waruiko.
Two machines were introduced to me by my uncle. You may know them as the PlayStation and the Super Nintendo. I was shown a selection of discs and cartridges that go into those machines, who were then hooked up to a TV and turned on. Looking back, I find it kind of interesting that my relatives were almost 2 console generations behind, despite their wealth. I think they were such aggressively normal people they only perceived games as dumb toys for children, and either didn't know or didn't care about new consoles. This put me in a weird spot where my childhood should have been mostly composed of Call of Duty and Xbox Live and other things people now pretend to be nostalgic for, but due to my financial situation, I experienced a weird truncated millennial upbringing, where I played all the same games as your average 40-year-old, while lacking access to the powerful opioid memories they have. I played Mario, Sonic, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear, Resident Evil, and just about everything else. My first impression of Sonic was that he attacked not by jumping, but by stabbing people, due to the way his jump animation looked to me. I called it the jump and stab. Someone else, I don't remember who, basically called me a dumbass for it. My first big game gift was a PlayStation 2 in 2007. We couldn't figure out the AV cable, so all the games were in black and white, but I didn't care. The first game I chose to try was Silent Hill 2, the Born from a Wish scenario to be precise. I used to have this compulsion to check out a game's side content first before going into the main course. Definitely a poor person thing. So, my first experience with the PS2 was a black and white cutscene of a woman contemplating suicide. An excellent choice on my part. But yes, the beach house. It wasn't always just me and my parents. Sometimes other cousins would come over with us. I guess my uncle's family was running a little charity or something. The others, like me, lived in absurd destitution, and were clearly unfit for an ordered environment such as this. Unlike me, however, they were not overwhelmed with dread at discovering a new reality they were never meant to see. They were just really loud and annoying and liked to break things. Not even on purpose, just as a basic function of their existence. And it hurt me to think I was just like them deep down. One day, 3 or 4 of us were wrangled into a bedroom, where the PlayStation was plugged in and ready to go. And this is what I saw on the TV. ALFRED Chicken, released in 2002, is very likely the first video game I ever laid my eyes on. This game was the final entry in a decade-long effort to make Alfred a thing, starting in the early 90s mascot game craze with the Amiga, in case you couldn't instantly tell this was European, and ending in the PlayStation's twilight years. He was also present on the Game Boy and the Super Nintendo. Every game in the Alfred-verse has our hero go on a quest to save his kidnapped girlfriend and also Billy Egg, the innocent victim. I think they were kidnapped by evil robots or something. It doesn't matter. I'm hardly a mascot platformer guy, but it does feel like the series might be among the best examples of it. The games are all very competent, decently charming, and have a unique central gimmick. Alfred can only attack by pecking, which is done by jumping and then pressing either down or square, at least in its PS1 incarnation. You'll be doing this constantly to dive bomb enemies or pick up extra speed, press switches, and so on. It's all fine and probably mind-blowing to a 5-year-old who's never seen anything like it before. My memories of this game are all very weak. I remember the first level, and this underwater segment in the second level where you dodge World War II naval mines. I don't think I saw anything past that. I played it for a little longer this time, around 6 or 7 levels, and was surprised at how genuinely good it is. I have no real nostalgia for this game, so I can say with confidence that it's the ultimate Alfred experience. It's basically the same as the other games, except this time with unreasonably good music and visuals. I don't remember this at all. In fact, I think I remember the game having no music at all when I first saw it. This kind of thing does happen a lot with bootleg discs, but I don't know. Either way, it was very surprising. Most game composers at the time still relied on sampled instruments, so hearing a live music score playing over this platformer for babies was quite novel. Something I noticed in the Alfred verse was that the levels have very little context. They don't have names, don't stand for any particular place, and there are no bosses or cutscenes waiting at the end. It's just a surreal jumble of ideas, with the PlayStation version fully leaning into that to its benefit. It's very wacky and colorful, with many allusions to dreams and storybooks. Here's the entire appeal of Alfred Chicken summed up in a 10-second clip. The randomness feels like a conscious art decision here, unlike the earlier games where it might have been more of a convenience thing. Alfred's whole thing is kind of weird. Our gallinaceous protagonist is just that, a chicken. He clucks and pecks. He doesn't yell out annoying dialogue or ancient pop culture references like his mascot peers. The games are covered in dry, confusing British cartoon humor. Everything feels like a semi-ironic joke from the devs.
Animal said chicken in a startling world. The best chicken game ever tried the web.
The PS1 game opens with an article from the daily generic game plot over sounds of an audience booing and laughing before cutting to and then the title screen shows up. What am I supposed to feel here?
Yo.
Actually, why don't we just call Alfred to find out what's going on? After all, they did put up a toll-free phone number with voice messages from the man himself back in the 90s. Let's see.
We need to hear more to get the full picture of what happened. Let's continue on.
This is Alfred, Alfred Chicken, Super Alfred Chicken. Thanks for calling, and I'm coming really soon. Really soon. Like the end of March, I'll be in every toy store, every department store, every cool place where they sell Nintendo games.
That's enough.
Do you see what I mean? It's ridiculous, though not in a bad way. It certainly beats the shit out of Bubsy or Gex or whoever else the elderly like to rave about. If a video game mascot election were ever to be held, I would certainly vote for Alfred, though such a stupid thing would surely never happen.
In Bournemouth, some of the more eccentric candidates have been posing for the pictures of Screaming Lord Sutch on the left, the curiously named Alfred Chicken Party.
Yes, this is real. They actually created a political party for protecting the rights of video game chickens, with Alfred as its representative, and won 18 votes in a genuine British by-election. All of this for a video game where a chicken jumps a lot. This whole thing turned out to be a lot more deranged than I expected, which makes it worthy of being the first 100% Western game I talk about on this channel. I have nothing insightful to say about Alfred Chicken. The games are nice. The PlayStation 1 is the best. The very odd, amusing marketing stunts complement the games quite well. It's far from the worst introduction to gaming one could have. And as an adult, it gave me my favorite politician, and turned me into a die-hard chickenist. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no. Oh god, oh fuck. Dragon Ball Final Bout was possibly the second game I ever played. Final Bout is a game everyone remembers but no one likes, and for good reason. This isn't just gamer hysterics, it is almost objectively impossible to play. Imagine crawling over broken glass while sinking in quicksand. Imagine if Alzheimer's was playable. These are the most fitting descriptors for it. You'll find similar reports just about everywhere. Practically a main fixture of worst fighting game lists all over the net. But you know, the thing about being a dumb baby is that you lack the words to describe things and how they make you feel, which might actually be preferable over abusing your brain with convenient junk language to dilute and disarm everything around you. I saw the game's intro and could immediately recognize it as exciting and cool. Look, the colors are punching each other. Despite being incapable of playing the game correctly, through no fault of my own, I could see it as an extension of the intro movie and basically trick myself into thinking they were the same thing. I didn't have some anglophone alopecian in my ear complaining about how clunky the game was, so the question of whether or not the game was good didn't matter to me in the slightest. I liked seeing the characters and imagined little fights between them. And this went on for a pretty long time, even after I'd gotten back from the beach house. As a kid, I think I might have played the Japanese version of Final Bout. I played the American version for this video, and the opening music was different and worse. On top of the English voices coming off as very weird and unrecognizable.
To show you a terror beyond hell. That was our agreement, wasn't it? You jerk!
This may have been the first instance of me blindly navigating Japanese menus to try and make the game happen, a common occurrence for much of my early life. It wouldn't be incorrect to say I enjoyed Final Bout when I first played it, but at that time I also enjoyed playing with random string and black beans and putting a bunch of water and detergent into a cup to drink as a science experiment, which would have certainly killed me had my mom not stopped me. Sure, she regrets doing that every now and then. Basically, this is the most backhanded compliment of all time. However, I do have to thank Final Bout for being my introduction to anime and anime paraphernalia. That did put me on the right path, on top of being a good exercise in childhood imagination. All I have to say is thank God for Tenkaichi 2. Pandemonium could possibly have been the third game I ever played. At first glance, it looks like any one of the 5 trillion weird Euro-shit platformers released during the 5th generation. And yet, during my travels, I discovered it was actually developed by a 100% North American studio that had somehow perfectly nailed the surreal French pervert energy of those productions. Out of all the games involved here today, this is the one I remember the least. I have exactly one fleeting memory of it. A character in some huge place, either indoors or underground, jumping over platforms and staircases. The TV image quality was awful, black and white and full of static. I also remember the jester guy from the game cover, and that's about it. After a quick replay, I'm pretty sure I just misremembered the second level, which has you ascend and then descend a huge spiral tower. Either way, it's nowhere near enough to form some nuanced opinion of the game. There's not much here aside from some nice early 3D, clever and sometimes awkward camera tricks to give you a sense of action and scale. Like with ALFRED Chicken, the most interesting thing about Pandemonium lies outside the game. In Japan, the game was entirely rewritten and localized as magical hoppers. Instead of a CG intro with some creepy melting plastic people, we get a wonderfully directed anime opening with our brand new main characters Clam and Guppy. Both of them designed by veteran mangaka Suizen, who much like Izumi Takemoto has mastered the shoujo art style despite being a moid. I'd love to show you what the CD-ROM art book of his looks like, but unfortunately I can only find its cover online. Clam and Special almost looks like a Japanese attempt at reverse engineering American cartoon character design. This time we have to save the kingdom of Amazing Land and its princess. Right away we're in more familiar RPG territory. The jester in Pandemonium has this creepy scepter that talks to him like an alternate personality. In Magical Hoppers, this has been changed to a more standard old sage mascot character. Mind you, the actual game doesn't change at all, and it really doesn't need changing. The anime aesthetic fits the weird American presentation like a glove while enhancing it. It's still the same weird and hard platformer from earlier, only now made by people a little more in tune with their humanity. Look, Toys for Bob, you made an alright game and you probably did as good a job as you possibly could have, But when you make your horrific models run up against a pitch black screen with no fanfare whatsoever, and the other guys give each character their own level and illustrations, it's pretty clear to me who's the winner here. I'm sure you went on to have a nice long career though. You guys know what this is? I do. I got it for Christmas as a kid along with an RC car and a baseball glove. Me and my little brother would take turns trying to beat Iggy's castle, and then Dad brought dominoes and we all sat around the TV and watched Ghost Dad on VHS. None of that happened. I did play Super Mario World though. It's great, but not as great as Sin and Punishment. I also watched my uncle play Final Fight. I have an unusually high definition memory of him picking Hagar in the select screen. This moment suddenly making me aware that people have individual preferences based on their tastes. We never get past the Sodom fight. Not a bad selection at all, but there was one other SNES game I played that left quite a large impression. Biker Mice from Mars is another example of Japanese devs putting their own spin on a Western property, this time with far better results. Directed by Satoshi Nishiwada, also known as Satoshi Kissy, Happy Satoshi, and Drunker Satoshi. This game is the result of a Konami B or C team being asked to make a racing game based on the American comic and cartoon franchise of the same name. The source material is exactly what you'd expect.
Vape 'em! What do you say we fry the fins off those stink faces? Do it! One fish face barbecue coming up! Don't forget your basic studly bods.
It's the perfect ideal of a histrionic and vaguely uncomfortable 90s cartoon with bad jokes and subliminal fetish content. Needless to say, none of this is present in the game. We are spared any kind of story or dialogue. It's just the heroes racing against the villains. The developers have some overlap with other 16-bit Konami games, like Goemon and Contra, which makes sense given how beautiful it looks. Though the highlight for me has always been the soundtrack. This is easily some of the most memorable, effective music ever put into a video game. I've been able to clearly remember almost every song in this game for over 20 years. My brain just never let go of the data, and why would it? This is amazing stuff, especially mind-blowing as a kid. It's still the same weird furry men on their bikes, but the game's presentation makes it all much easier to tolerate and genuinely cool. I remember my childhood favorite was Vinny. I liked his big red bike but couldn't figure out his jumping move. I think I borrowed my uncle's Nintendo just so I could play this game at home. It's a good example of the sheer human quality in a dev team elevating what would otherwise be mediocre. I have some weirder memories of the beach house I can't quite place in a timeline. Among these is freaking out at night because the lights were off in the bathroom, which terrified me because I thought Chrysalid from King of Fighters 99 was going to get me. Really. I know exactly what made me scared of him, and it was this loading screen before his boss fight. I suppose this would look creepy to a kid, but unfortunately I tried explaining this to my tomboy surfer cousin and she just made fun of me. She was around 14 years old and her parents would let her travel to Europe on her own. An equally disturbing loading screen was the one before Onslaught's boss fight in Marvel vs. Capcom. I loved this game and played it to death, and I'm pretty sure I'd shut my eyes every time this showed up. The same game also made me a freak for the CPS2 audio frequently used in Capcom's arcade stuff. I'd leave the sound test open and air guitar to the songs like I'm holding a little concert. I was already a shameless game and music nerd, and I'm pretty sure Biker Mice is to blame for that. Despite all the weirdness, my Gamernarche revealed to me that games can in fact be very good, very exciting, and very creative. However, what I hadn't learned yet was that games cannot save me. There was a small river near the beach house. Once I visited with one of my less civilized cousins, and we decided to play in the river. I had slightly violent tendencies as a kid. I remember hitting one of my cousins over the head with a shovel when I was young, to which he bizarrely replied, "Didn't even hurt." Another cousin I remember choking after he tried deleting my GTA Vice City story save. He went limp, wouldn't open his eyes or get up, which convinced me I genuinely killed him for a few minutes. I decided I'd just lie to my parents about it and tried reading a book to appear innocent. Wolf File by Jack Woods. All I remember from the book is a passage about a werewolf tearing a guy's scrotum open. Of course, my cousin suddenly got up after a few minutes, which means he was obviously just pretending to be unconscious to fuck with me. Good one. My idea of playing in the river with my cousin was to push him underwater and drown him while laughing. Except he was older and bigger than me and could easily punch me in the face and try to drown me himself. I remember being genuinely confused as to why he was doing this. We were just playing after all. River Cousin would later grow up to become an S-rank crackhead, harassing his old, sick father for drug money, while stealing doors and window frames from his own house to sell. A few years ago, he showed up at our house at 11 p.m. He then shut off the breaker, depriving us of electricity, and started randomly kicking our front gate and fence, denting and knocking shit around before wandering off into the night. Something tells me this wasn't a random outburst, but who knows really. I can still remember him thrashing underwater. Maybe I should have pushed down a little longer. Sometime later, we were told not to play near the river anymore because it was polluted. I went to look at it, and for some reason the river was filled with human shit. Games became a thing for me, and that thing stuck for decades. I learned English through games, got into music through games, started going online because of games. I needed constant novelty to help me escape from how increasingly broken my life was becoming. A lot of the dejection and hopelessness I experienced as a kid I rationalized as simple boredom, and if I stopped being bored, then everything would be fine. I really wanted a PS2 and was finally able to get one, but after another surge of entropy, I became depressed again and wanted a PS3. I wanted one for 3 games specifically: Metal Gear Solid 4, Devil May Cry 4, Resident Evil 5. Kinda proud of myself for that. I would get a 7th gen console eventually, a slim Xbox 360 when I was 12 years old, but by then the casket had already closed. What else? Oh, I liked the Tarzan game for the PS1. My favorite level was the one in the camp. I've never watched the movie. I would watch my mom as she played through every classic Tomb Raider while sometimes stopping to scream at me for no reason. Later, when the Tomb Raider Riona reboot was released, she would jokingly comment on how Lara Croft no longer had giant boobs. Having infinite bootlegs to choose from means I got to play a lot of weird stuff, Japan-only stuff, and plenty of internet-critical darlings. Silent Hill, Siren, Kuon, Fatal Frame, Rule of Rose, Haunting Ground, God Hand. I guess I had a sixth sense for this stuff. It seemed to me that anyone with taste would naturally be drawn to these games. At some point after the PS2, I also got my hands on an even then ancient PC. Most likely Windows 98, trackball mouse, huge CRT monitor, no internet. Still fascinating for a kid. I was playing Obscure 2 at the time, the surreal French pervert energy, and decided to hop on Microsoft Word to write fanfiction of the game involving the characters Stan and Shannon, the game's power couple. I'm sure I got a whole paragraph down. Years later, I would do a similar thing with Resident Evil Code Veronica, writing a kind of short story narration of the game in my notebooks. I still knew how to write by hand at this point, so it must have been shortly before or after I left school. Unfortunately, my memories become a jumbled mess at this point, and I have very little reason to revisit most of them for this video. There are 2 other games I'd like to talk about though. You could say I learned to be a garbage man as a kid, separating different types of trash, assigning value to them, sometimes finding gold. Lone Soldier for the PS1 is not gold, as you can probably tell. In fact, I'd say this game is emblematic of the grinding, low-energy self-obliteration that's so endemic to my life. Lone Soldier came to me in a blank DVD-R cover made of red cardboard. The game's title was sharpied onto the disc. Most of my games looked like this. Unsurprisingly, the game wouldn't work. It would usually get stuck on the first loading screen, sometimes the second. I'd put the controller down while the intro scene played and lie down in bed with my eyes closed. I thought being away from the game would increase the chances of it working correctly. When it did work and I was able to actually play it, there was no background music. Almost no sound effects either, but that's just what the game is like. I just figured the game was so modestly made, they didn't have any time or money to put audio in, but I was wrong. It does have music, at least in the version I played for this video, but then I look at other videos of it on YouTube and there's no music there either, so what the fuck? Otherwise, Lone Soldier appears to be something made by people with only the vaguest idea of what a video game is. There's points, levels, a soldier guy. It's the fake game you see some kid playing in the movie, except it's real. The only thing I associate with Lone Soldier is the feeling of wanting to do anything else but play it. Playing games on my own has always felt inherently dark and sad. Even as a kid, it felt like running up against a dead end. I could sense something bad was coming for me, but had no way of doing anything about it. So I guess I'll settle for picking up the flamethrower. This is a game you play while your parents are fighting in the other room. None of this is the game's fault, mind you, but you know how these things go. I was mildly amused replaying it though. For me, it's how you can clearly hear mic feedback on every single voice line. Not that I'm one to talk. Another nice surprise was the game being completely incoherent. The premise should be simple enough. John Soldier has to recover a nuke after it gets hijacked by a terrorist UFO and then kill all those responsible. We're given a lineup of bad guys, rendered in that hideous 90s comic book style. Except none of them have names, and I don't think most of them even show up in the game. You walk forward every level and shoot the guys. You could easily run past them, but the game is clever and gives you a minimum quota of dead terrorists to meet per level. Otherwise, it just kicks you back to the start. Near the end of the jungle stage, we come across some RA5 people and start cleaning the place up. The village chief was not open to diplomacy, probably because I burned his entire village down for extra points. He then turns into a giant fire-breathing dog lizard creature and I shoot him to death with a rocket launcher. This is apparently a game about terrorism. You have defeated the boss. Awesome. Go on to the next world. Yeah, we'll get there eventually, don't you worry. The third level takes place in a run-down city. It introduces 3 armed mutant men and teleporting ninja enemies. The level boss is a weird, maybe elderly couple that take turns shooting at you with different guns. The last level has you fly into a spaceship and kill the robot terrorist leader and his lady friend. Congratulations, you have rid the planet of the evil Titus E. Mulderhide and his band of avaricious criminals. Shut up. So, this really wasn't the cool, tough guy military thing I thought it would be. Lone Soldier possesses a faintly self-aware Kusoge attitude, which is kind of interesting but does nothing to ease the pain. The pain of self-autopsy in this case. The game itself is pretty easy and short. Now try the levels with your eyes shut. What? I must have been 7 or 8 years old. My house had been broken into and some of our belongings were stolen. Some money, my mom's fake jewelry, and most importantly, my PlayStation. They didn't steal our TV though, probably because it was so old and heavy. They'd done this to more people around the neighborhood. My grandfather had his DVD player stolen as well. The game inside my PlayStation had also been taken prisoner, unfortunately. That game was Metal Slug X. I probably don't need to explain Metal Slug to you. For some reason, I held this illusion for a long time that I'd actually played Metal Slug 5 or 6, despite X being the only Metal Slug available for the PS1. My 2 memories were of a city stage and a snow stage, and what do you know, X has both of those. Not that it matters, since it was sold for crack money along with the console. It must have exchanged hands at some point. I hope whoever played it next got to the Orca boss fight at least. What happened to Metal Slug is what happened to most Japanese things worth caring about. They made a gacha game that somehow lasted for 12 years while siphoning talent from people who should be doing anything else and money from the pay pigs. Naturally, their next trick was giving the license to clueless Westerners. And then the original devs spent 7 years making a spiritual successor that might never actually come out. Really unique stuff, I know. Oh, I forgot to mention they also stole my sandals. That's funny enough, but for some reason they felt the need to replace them with a pair of worn, dirty SpongeBob sandals, as if that would make it any better. This was not unlike anything else in my life.
Bye!